I do apologize here. We just have maxed out the meeting, so we're trying to figure out how we can get the connection so that people can hear the trustee in particular. Yeah.
Make sure we tell them what they
Yeah. If we are also broadcasting live via YouTube, if you would like to go through there, you can search our account Wabash Board, and then you should be able to see a video being streamed. I'll try to put that on the meeting on the chat here for people on Zoom. I do apologize about that. We just didn't expect this many people. Testing here. Would you be able to hear us from the speaker or no? Is your volume up?
Okay, try again.
All right, can you hear us? Is it broadcasting over there? Nope.
I apologize.
Can you hear us? Is it broadcasting?
Oh, they're having all kind of trouble.
Testing. Testing. Testing here. Testing. Testing. Is the speaker coming through or no?
It's got to be taking from the computer.
All right. But let's get let's here. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So posted online as well on our website, wabashboard.com.
You're just gonna talk loud.
Okay. Okay. And so what we'll be doing here then, we'll start with the township update. The first part there is the update from the office of the trustee. So that would be Trustee Tyson.
So the first thing that I would like to talk about is the meeting minutes. I have been requesting the meeting minutes be sent to the office for 4 months. I have sent 15 emails now to try and get these meeting minutes. I came to the last board meeting and I notified you that I did not have them and that they are required per the state for me to update these for the open door policy. I still do not have them.
All right, check. As I understand it, board member Brendan sent them earlier today. That's what he just said. Yeah. So you can move on to the next part of your update.
So as I said to you in the last meeting that I wasn't going to provide you any reports until I got the board meeting minutes. So I did not have them. If they were sent today, then I will take a look at them tomorrow and I will post them. And then I will provide you with the reports for this month and last month.
For here, that wouldn't be an issue. Well,
So are you out of the meeting? Jennifer, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you? I mean, that sucks, but.
What I said was that you could continue with the rest of your update. We're having trouble over here just because of the sheer number of participants in the Zoom. We're hundreds, as you can tell. Keeps kicking us out. So, yeah, you can continue your update. Ms.
I don't
Tyson.
have, that's all I have. I asked for the
Okay.
board meeting minutes
Perfect.
and
All
I
right.
hadn't received
So,
them.
Jim Lewis, would you like to provide an update from the fire department?
Through May of this year, we did 98 runs. I'm sorry, yeah. We had 98 runs, 19 fire, 79 rescue. Year to date in 2021 is 485 runs. Year to date in 20 was 478. And through today, we are at 555 runs for the year.
You said 19 runs this month for fire?
No, 19 runs in May for fire. Yes.
In 19 and a half runs a month would be the cost of having West Lafayette respond to just fire calls, and just equating the cost of the 3 fire guys, 19 runs, 19 and a half runs would be that. So yeah, but we'll get into that more specifically later. Yeah. Anyway, going on to the next item on the agenda. We have a seeing as we have no update. We will go forward. We'll start with the people in the Zoom. So if anybody has a public comment, please just raise your hand, whatnot, and we'll get through you real quick, and then we'll go with the people in person. Yeah, it would be appreciated by the residents over here and the media if you turned on your camera. But let's get back over here. Anybody that would like to speak, unmute yourself and I will recognize you.
Hello, sir.
All right. Yeah, you're recognized.
Yes, hi, my name is Nathan Smith. I'm a former member of the Wabash Township Volunteer Fire Department. I served with these members for almost 10 years. I served the township boldly, or honorably, and was very proud to serve the township. I've been following what's going on, and the behavior that's going on is a kick in the face, and what's going to happen now is going to put township lives at risk. So my question is, I see a lot of discussion about cost and how much it costs to have firefighters. How much will it cost when somebody dies? What is the value? What is the monetary value of a member of the township? How much money can the township afford to lose in a lawsuit when somebody dies or their property is lost?
I would
Thank
refer that question to the trustee. So trustee, you can answer.
I don't think I quite understand your question. So I think it might be important if we start at the beginning here, because it's clear that we have some new people to the process and not everyone understands what's going on. The reporting on this has been pretty terrible. And so when people come and they ask me questions, they seem to not really understand what's fully happening. So when I first got elected as trustee, the chief of the fire department at the time, Mike Francis, and the deputy chief at the time, Jim Lewis, came to me and told me that the township was in crisis. And they said that they needed to grow the department and that we didn't have the budget to support it. And so when I looked at the budget, we did not have the budget to support the people that we had at that time. We were spending more money than we were bringing in. So
I think to interrupt
10 years.
Trustee Tyson?
No,
That does
I'm-
not answer the question, the section
Okay,
for comment
Angel,
from
I'm
the
not,
trustee.
I'm speaking, so I need you to give me the opportunity to answer the question. So we did not have the budget to support the firefighters. So I went to the board in the 2019 budget meeting and I asked them to support a 3-year emergency loan plan to have the money.
Given that you can answer the question as stated, we are not going to be lost off track. You have an opportunity to answer the question as stated. Not
Angel,
gonna
if
go on
you
a long
mute me again, I'm going to leave the meeting.
Well,
I need
answer the question
opportunity.
or
Okay.
leave the meeting.
All right, so you don't want people to know what I have to say then? Is that what
I
you're
want you
saying?
to I want you to answer the question that was stated. The opportunity to speak as an update from the trustee was presented earlier and you choose not to speak. You chose
I
not
wanted to
speak.
give people the opportunity to ask questions about what they care about. And I'm going to answer the question and I'm going to answer it completely and fully because we have people here that are new to this situation. They don't have the context to understand what is happening in the township. So I'm
Respectfully,
going to
ma'am,
do
I
that.
am not new to the situation and I'm very well of the context. I asked a simple
Oh, I
question.
wasn't referring to you or any person in particular. I'm not trying to insult anyone. I'm just saying that I know that there are people here tonight who are new and who do not know what's going on. So I would like for them to have the full context of what is happening in the township. So would you like my answer?
Ma'am, I think I follow the news coverage and I think you very well explained where your position is. I'm asking for an answer for my direct question. Thank you.
Okay, well then I don't have an answer.
All
I
right,
can assure
so-
you that the members of the township would like an answer to that question.
So you would like my answer then?
I
So
would
the
like an
question
answer for the
as
question
stated.
that I asked, not a full blown, everybody's pretty familiar with what's going on. How much money as a
Well,
township?
that's how I'm going to answer the question. So I don't need to be told how to answer the question. What I need to know is whether or not you want to hear what I have to say.
Are you going to
I-
answer my question directly or are you going to go about it in a roundabout manner, ma'am?
I'm
I'm
gonna
just
answer
asking
it
for
in the
this.
best of my ability.
I will.
So you either want me to try and answer your question and you want to hear from me.
Ms. Tyson, as the chair of this meeting, I want to restate, normal procedure for any meeting is that everybody is awarded time, and when it comes to public comment, you can't just go on and ramble about something else. It's a simple answer to the question. Like, there's a lot of time. We're gonna have a lot of public comment. Do you have an answer to that question or no?
I'm sorry, are you saying that I have a time limit to answer the questions that the people have?
All right. Yeah, we probably should, but
So
anyway.
you don't want to hear what I have to say about the situation? Because that's why everybody is here tonight, is to hear what I have to say. And now you don't want me to
Ms.
speak.
Tyson, the question was, well, how much cost can the township incur in a lawsuit if we are to be sued due to neglect and like lack of service? That was the question. Do you have an answer to that or no?
I don't have the case history of lawsuits to fire departments in the state of Indiana.
All right, so you don't have an answer to the question and we can move on to the next question. Anybody else
you.
have a public comment in the video over the Zoom? Is there any other person? You may unmute yourself. Oh, I see Bailey Beach, you're recognized.
Hi, my name is Cody Veach, and I recently just bought a property in the Wabash Township area. I was wondering, based on the fact that we are no longer going to have a fire department, and we're now looking at the skyrocketing cost of homeowners insurance, what is the plan moving forward to try to remedy that situation? And is that cost going to outweigh what it would have cost us to just keep the fire department?
Okay, so going back to what I was saying before. So my original recommendation was to support the fire department and to grow the fire department. So we had 2 full-time staff members without paid benefits, and we were going to take the fire department with the plan that I had put together to have 6 full-time people with benefits and to grow the volunteer fire department into a combination department with paid members and to support the current volunteer staff as the township grows. The board approved that plan and we got the first emergency loan and we began that process. We hired people, we enacted health insurance benefits, and we were trying to put together retirement benefits for those firefighters. In order to do that, we have to have a sustainable tax increase, right? A tax increase to fund all of these things that we're trying to do. So we had a couple avenues in which to do that. You can either do a fire territory or you can do a fire district. These are 2 of the ways that were presented to us. In a territory, you have to have more than 1 entity. In a district, that you can do it by yourself. So in February, and also March, I tried to work with the fire department and get the public support for a fire district. This would have allowed us to continue growing the fire department. We did not get the signatures that we needed for that petition. So like I said before, when I came into office, we did not have the budget to support the paid staff that we have. So now that we have we aren't doing any more emergency loans. We don't have a long-term sustainable way to increase the tax revenue. I am going to eliminate the full-time staff positions and hopefully use the money that we have to supplement the daytime hours that our volunteers have a hard time servicing with part-time staff members. So the reason why the fire department is being reduced is because we do not have the tax revenue to support it. And we no longer have an avenue with which to do so. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Based on what I have seen and read, we had money until the end of the year to fund the fire department.
That is accurate.
With that being said,
we're not talking about.
No, I'm talking.
Today.
I'm talking. Hey, Jennifer, I'm talking. You need to give me a moment. Just like you asked for your moment earlier, please give me mine. So based on what I have read and seen, we had money to fund the fire department until the end of the year. With that being said, that leaves an additional 6 months that we could still have continued fire services. Now, we're going into this summer with one of the probably highest drought records out there. I've already talked with our meteorologist, Chad Evans, and that's where we're at scientifically. So you're going to take the fire department away from us in a time where we're going to have the highest chance of fires. I don't understand why we can't keep them until at least the end of the year and try to come up with another way to fund the fire department if what you're saying is true. So what are we supposed to do when, say, my house catches on fire and I have to wait for one of your part-time employees to come out to my house to decide whether or not there is a fire, and then have that person call the Lafayette Fire Department and then wait on them to get here? So that's going to cause my homeowner's insurance to skyrocket anywhere between probably 3 to 5 times what it's going to cost. So I would like to know why are we not going until the end of the year?
Right. So like I said before, we are going to use the money that we have in the budget to have a transition plan so that we don't just not have anything at the end of the year. So these part-time people, first of all, are going to be firefighters, right? They're not just, anyone without training. So we're going to allow the firefighters of the community to apply to these positions, but these hours are going to be greatly reduced. So like I said before, we're not losing the fire department. We still have a volunteer fire department in Wabash Township, and we expect to. Yes, tax or insurance rates are going to go up. I don't know how much they'll go up. I don't know where you live, or what your home is, or what your rates are now. So I can't speak to how much they'll go up or how they'll change. But yes, they will go up. And so that was one of the reasons why I supported increasing the fire department. So I am going to use that money in the budget to try to make sure that we have people available during the working Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 hours. So it's a transition plan so that we don't just get caught completely, without anything, without any money and without any support. So.
All right, so I don't mean to interrupt you, sir. I understand. I want to get through the comments from the Zoom, and then I don't mean to be like interrupting in that sense. Is there any other comment from the individuals on the Zoom?
We'll have a point of
I do.
clarification. I do have a point of clarification for folks. The board never approved a plan of multiple loans. We approved one loan with discussions about a second loan, and with interest in discussing long-term sustainable funding, which the trustee alludes to, but we have had years to discuss this, and this board in multiple configurations has tried just that.
We'll move on to the next public comment from the Zoom. Is there anybody you can unmute?
Okay, except that wasn't accurate. That's not an accurate statement.
Ms. Tyson, we're moving on to the next segment of
Please do
So
not yell at me. This is a professional meeting. Let's just keep it can we all act professionally?
We can't have you interrupting and trying to counter say everything that is stated. I'm asking for the next point of public comment.
I have a couple of questions of follow-up.
You're recognized.
For clarification, thank you, sir. So my understanding, in my earlier comment, you said that we had a loan taken out in 2019. It was a 3-year loan, which by my math means we should have money until 2022. If we have the full-time people already in place, wouldn't that be the transition plan of maintaining coverage versus paying for part-timers?
No, we won't.
provide
The
that.
amount of money that we spend on the full-time firefighter. No, we will not be spending the same amount of money on full-time firefighters as these part-time positions that we will have available. And also Brendan is correct. You do an emergency loan 1 year at a time. The plan that I presented to them in the first year was to do 3 years of an emergency loan because of the time it takes to put these kinds of things together. So, and we were working on it for quite some time. So we hired a financial consulting company to present us with options. We spoke with West Lafayette. We spoke with other
Correct, trustee. We did speak to those other bodies, and we do have other options. My question would be, why did you decide on the option you did?
Why do you not allow me to finish my statement?
Ms. Tyson, you're honestly filibustering, and we know that you're not stupid. We know that you know what you're doing when it comes to trying to prevent people from.
Somehow I'm trying to give people the information that there is a lot of context to this. This is an important conversation that we're having with the public, and we have an opportunity to help people understand what's going on in their township. This is their township. They have a right to know what's happening.
And that's why you were asked a question that you have not really answered. So if you don't have a more specific, I see that Spike still has his username Spike on the screen. You still have your hand up. You had another question?
I have one further follow-up question. Ms. Tyson, you state that you're still hoping to have a volunteer fire department in place. How are you hoping to have a volunteer department in place where, from the best that we can tell, the relationship is shattered? The number of volunteers, from my understanding, has decreased. And there's been some discussion about trying to work on a contract that seems to have either fallen through or not been handled in good faith. How are you expecting people to volunteer to serve the community under those conditions?
Yes, I do think this has become an incredibly toxic environment. I've talked to multiple people from the volunteer fire department about that. And, you know, it's really sad what's happening here. And I don't think that, the volunteers appreciate being used as political pawns, but they certainly have been. And I think it's sad. So I hope that people will continue to serve their community because it's the right thing to do.
Ma'am, do you understand that you are also using them as political pawns?
No, I don't understand that.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Sorry, it was unacceptable. Yeah. Moving on to the next person. Is there any other question? I see hand raised.
I've got a question on Hill.
Yeah.
Since we're doing away with firefighters and benefits for the firefighters, I was wondering if Jennifer was going to keep her benefits too.
So I got health insurance along with the firefighters, which will be going away. So yes, this is also, you know, hurting me. But the PERF, the retirement benefits were set up prior to me becoming trustee, and they've been in place since before that. So they weren't connected to the emergency loan money, but my health insurance is going away. Yes.
Name of the questioner, please.
All right, next person. I see a Gail has her hand raised. You're recognized. You're muted, but could you also introduce yourself just for Brendan Betts, our secretary, can include your name on the record?
Yes, sorry. My name's Gail Charlotte. I live at on Windsor Drive in West Lafayette. So I live in the Wabash Township. I just have a couple of questions that came up because I've been following the press reports about this. So is it my understanding, Trustee Tyson, that you are hiring part-timers to work Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they're going to be using their own vehicles to travel to the sites of the fire? And it astounds me, I have to say, before I ask the question, it astounds me that you've had 555 calls so far this year. I'm assuming that all those calls must occur between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday, because this is when the part-timers will be employed. And so if you could clarify that for me, I would appreciate it. I'd also like further clarification about your comment that said you asked the volunteer firefighters to get signatures for approve
Fire district.
Fire district. Yes, sorry. And yet I'm asking you, do you think that was really the best way to get signatures? The reason why I'm asking is because as a former public official, I never asked my teachers to go door to door to get signatures for referendums, which I would think that would be a strange thing to do. Instead, I would have informed the public, and I would have used my public forum to inform people and tell them that they should proceed with the signatures. So my two questions are, do fires and emergency calls happen between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday, or is there a contingency for those non-emergency hours? And two, could you clarify why the volunteer firefighters were expected to go door to door instead of you or doing this public component yourself? Thank you.
Sure. So I think the first thing that you asked me about was their own vehicles. So for the most part, and the vast majority of the volunteers and anybody that we would hire part-time would come to the station, and then we have trucks and equipment that they use to do the job, to service the community. The second question that you asked me was about, the 8 to 5, the emergency hours. Yeah. And so the volunteers have expressed to me in the past that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 is when they have difficulty getting volunteers to show up. So that's why we wanted to have someone at the station during those hours. Those are kind of the peak hours that we have difficulty with. And then the other thing was, I can't remember what the other thing was.
I asked about the signatures on.
Oh, yeah. So we've been having public meetings about this for 2 years. It was in the paper. I sent the reporting in the newspaper about me asking the volunteers to get signatures wasn't exactly accurate, shockingly. So what I asked them to do was have a meeting with me to discuss how we would get signatures. So I wanted to communicate with the fire department about what was happening and what we needed to do and the process of how we could put together a fire district. So that's what I asked them to have a meeting about, getting the signatures. Yeah.
I do have a follow-up question. Did the press also get it wrong about the people that you want to hire at $15 an hour? They will be coming to your station and driving your equipment, because it sounds like those people were supposed to drive to the site of the emergency, determine that there was a fire, and then call West Lafayette. Was that not accurate?
That is completely inaccurate. I haven't spoken to anybody about the part-time positions in any capacity at all. I never stated an hourly rate. I didn't talk about, none of that has been discussed.
I'm sure that volunteer firefighters would be able to speak to that later. Bryce, I see you have your hand raised. You're recognized.
Thank you, and I appreciate you taking my question. Just a little context as to me. I'm a paramedic, a firefighter, former law enforcement, Wabash Township resident, and Precinct 18 committee chairman. My question is, how long would it take to hire part-time employees based on your plan? And in the event that, as you pointed out, it is kind of a toxic environment, in the event that you have volunteers that are not willing to volunteer and you find yourself without a department, what is the contingency plan? Thank you for taking my question.
Ms. Tyson, you're muted.
Volunteer for the toxic environment.
Yeah.
What's the backup plan?
So, I mean, the part-time positions that we would have posted would be for current firefighters. So again, this is kind of like an incentive to have someone there during business hours when it's difficult to get volunteers. So if we don't fill these, so just so that we're clear about what happens, if someone calls 911 for service in Wabash Township, we will still get the call. If Wabash Township doesn't answer, we have mutual aid agreements with other agencies that respond. And so nothing will have changed with any of that or how that operates. Right now, we have one person on staff. We have one paid person on staff, but that doesn't mean that our volunteers don't respond. They respond as they can. And they try and work with our paid people to, assist them. So yeah, these would be full-time, or these would be firefighters existing that would be offered these positions.
Before we jump on to the next question, I have a couple of points of clarification there that for you to clarify, I guess. One of them is, we have 3 firefighters. My understanding is 2 of them are certified at firefighter 1 level. One of them is certified at firefighter 2 level. Is that correct among our paid staffers right now? So they're all firefighter 1s and 2.
I think you were talking about fire instructor. We have both our fire instructors are paid people.
Yeah.
And once they lay them off, we will not have any certified instructors.
Yeah.
For our department.
So we won't have any certified instructors for our department. And then in addition to that, the other question that I had regarding to that, with the response time, whatnot, was again, are they going to come in and use their equipment? Because when we've stated, and West Lafayette has stated, that if we're not responding with equipment, and that if we don't have firefighters on the scene, especially, and that it has to be a truck, not just people showing up, that we would be billed at $915 an hour, as I understand it, per truck. That part, yeah. But that's the statement that John Dennis, who is the mayor, and you can shake your head, say no, but you are at 2 sides of one agreement. It's not a one person says and the other does.
We don't have that agreement.
Then they wouldn't be responding at all then. We get billed. A mutual aid agreement is a mutual aid agreement is if you show up, they'll respond in addition to. And if they have a fire, we respond in addition to. You're trying to circumvent that agreement. I'm asking, are we?
I'm not trying to circumvent that agreement. The mayor of West Lafayette has told me that he has no concerns and doesn't want to discuss any kind of additional agreement. We do not have an agreement that we will reimburse West Lafayette at any set rate.
All right, so we'll be in debt to them indefinitely. Perfect. We'll go on to the next.
No, that's not how that works.
On the line, Downey, you're recognized.
Hell, that's not how that works.
Miss Downey, you're recognized.
No, we just won't pay them. We just won't pay the bill, right?
No, they have told us
like they will send us an invoice.
No, West Lafayette.
Invoice.
No, I'm telling you that I had a conversation with the mayor of West Lafayette, and we have no agreement for them to bill us. That is not a thing.
Ms. Tyson, when people provide services, they send you the bill. Whether you choose to pay them or not is up to you, but that's what they've stated repeatedly.
We have an agreement with West Lafayette, and that is not the agreement. You're just making things up. That's not appropriate or responsible of us as elected officials to not tell the public the truth.
All right, Ms. Tyson, when we have a mutual aid agreement, it means that we both respond. They'll join us and support us. It doesn't mean they'll carry our slack for us if we don't respond. That's what I'm stating. And otherwise, they bill same as other, Ms. Tyson, they bill same as other services bill. Anyway, Downey, as I stated earlier, you are recognized. And could you please say your full name for the record?
Yes, hello. My name is Damon Downey. I'm a member of the Wabash Township. I'm also a professional firefighter. So my question to Ms. Tyson is, are you saying you're wanting to hire already firefighters, so from Purdue Fire, West Lafayette Fire, as these part-time people?
Yes, we would be open to, we'll post the position and we will allow, obviously anyone can apply, but yes, you either, in order to use the equipment in Wabash Township, nothing has changed. You'll still have to go through the same process as has happened before, right?
Okay,
so,
but my problem as a professional firefighter, I'm getting paid by the city of Lafayette. So as a volunteer, if I was injured, they would look the other way for my medical insurance. Now, if you're paying me part-time, they would not look the other way, and who is going to foot that medical bill?
I don't think I quite understand your question. You're saying that you have health insurance benefits through Lafayette Fire Department and you are working part-time with Wabash Township and you have a on-the-job injury? That's your question, correct? I'm sorry, I can't hear you if you were, okay, I'm gonna assume that was the question. So, volunteers and any part-time people would be, we have a, oh goodness, the words have just, workman's comp policy. Sorry, we have workman's comp insurance that would cover them during their service to Wabash Township.
Well, again, though, as a professional firefighter, my employer would not want to keep my job if I was hurt working for you.
Yeah, we certainly would ask people to only volunteer or work part-time if they were able to and they wanted to do so. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure what the question is, but yes, I suppose if you were fired from your full-time position.
Working for $15 an hour for you, that would be bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any control over whether or not Lafayette Fire Departments. And again, we can only ask people to do what they can do. So if they volunteer in the community that, and they get injured, that is, that's a serious concern that we have, which is why we go through training and do everything that we can and have the right equipment and, spend the time to try to make sure that that doesn't happen. But those kinds of things do happen.
All right, I see Amanda. Oh, I thought you were done speaking, sorry. I see Amanda Everett has a question there. You're recognized. You would have to unmute yourself. I don't know if you're, I'll give it a second. If not, I'll jump onto Carrie while you figure out technical difficulties. All right, just for the moment, sorry, Amanda. Carrie, you're recognized. Please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Carrie Hopin-Jans. I am a resident of Wabash Township, and I'd like to know, Jennifer, why you are not in person at this meeting this evening.
Not sure why that gets applause. So I was in person last time and no one could hear me and it was quite difficult and the majority of the people were on Zoom. And so I attempted to be on the Zoom meeting so that we could communicate.
Thank you. All right, Amanda, you are recognized if you are still there. If not, I'll ask, is there anybody else that has a public comment on the Zoom before we jump to the people in person? I see Big Deal. It's the name on the thing, I'm sorry. You are recognized, please state your name for the record.
No, it's River Kerner. Jennifer, I have just a bottom line question. With respect, I think it's pretty evident that you've lost the faith of the board, the party, the firefighters, and a large swath of the community. Could you explain why you're not willing to step down? Thank you.
Sure. So there have been a lot of lies told about what's happening in Wabash Township. And I don't fully understand all of the reasons why that's happening, I'm sure, and why people have chosen to do some of the things that they have done. But I am going to serve my term, and I am going to do the job that I signed up to do until the end.
All right, Carrie, you still, oh, I see Anna, sorry. Anna Clark, you are recognized.
Hi, Anna Clark, Township resident. And I'm just wondering who all you have spoken to in terms of, getting consultation for these decisions that you've been making. Who supports you in those decisions?
Give me a second here. Michael Fleming, would you unmute yourself, or if I'm gonna mute you here? Sorry, it's just, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. If you could just explain who all you've spoken to and gotten consultation from in terms of the decisions you've made. And if you have anything, in writing that you could share that shows that folks who are, well versed in this space are supporting you.
I'm not exactly sure what decisions. So there's been a lot of things that we have decided to do. Some of those decisions I've made on my own. We have financial consultants to the township. We have legal consultants that I've spoken with several times. We have the Indiana Township Association. I've met with multiple other trustees. I've met with the mayor of West Lafayette, and I've also met with, other members of the community, elected officials in the community. So it just kind of depends on, is there like a specific thing that you are wondering about?
Yeah, I think, specifically around getting rid of paid firefighters and how that affects the budget, I think would be a specific question.
Oh, sure. So the financial consultants would be the big one. And like I said, I didn't support and don't support. I don't think that we should be getting rid of the fire department. I think that the township should be doing a fire district and growing the fire department and doing paid benefits, which is what I've supported the entire time. So this would not be what I would want to see the community do, but it is, it is up to the community to petition. So the way that process works, the fire district works, is that it's actually the community that comes together and puts together a petition and takes it to the commissioners of the county, is how that kind of goes. And when that happens, when a fire district is created, the trustee and the township board are removed from fire protection services. It's its own entity, and it has its own board. And I think that's the best thing for the community.
And so the mayor specifically, I know you said you spoke to him and other trustees, they all support the direction that you're taking this township?
Well, the fire district, we also, Chief Heath and I went to Indianapolis and met with other fire departments that had created either fire districts or fire territories. And so we met with them, and then of course our financial consultants, and then we had lawyers to be able to complete that process.
Before we jump in, I'm gonna exercise my authority as a chair to bring somebody from the public in that wanted to comment that might be relevant first. But before we do that, I did want to offer a point of clarification that one of the things that you stated was that you wanted to provide benefits, and a previous iteration of the board had to fight you tooth and nail to even get health insurance. And at the end, it was previous board members, Michelle Whitbrock, and current board member Brendan Betts, that were able to finally get it done, after much pushing and fighting tooth and nail for something that is basic. And it is accurate.
That is most certainly not accurate.
Trustee, yes, it is. We had numerous conversations about this. You had them with Michelle, the public shared concerns. There are people in this room that would talk about the exact same conversations with you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
This-
Yeah, and so I will now move, Ms. Tyson.
No.
We're moving, I recognize Patricia Mason. I recognize Patricia Mason. Ms. Tyson, you are
Presented to the board in 2019 to provide the firefighters.
Ms. Tyson, you are not recognized. You are not recognized.
It was
Ms.
appalling.
Tyson, you are not.
It is on the website.
Ms.
in
Tyson,
video.
Ms.
It's in
Tyson,
the
you are
board
not recognized.
We are not going to revisit, reach, and change history. If you mute me on how.
Well, you are not recognized. We're moving on to the next public comment.
We are not going to tolerate
Ms. Tyson,
lies
I am the
about
chair.
what happened.
Ms.
I'm not
Tyson,
going to tolerate
Ms.
lies.
Tyson, I am the chair.
I'm not going to.
Ms. Patricia Mason, you are recognized.
My name is Patty Mason, and I was the trustee in Wabash Township from 1979 to 2010. That's 32 years I was trustee. During that, and I was invested in this fire department from before that. My husband was a volunteer firefighter before I was elected trustee. The trustee and the fire department always had a very good working relationship. If you look at this building, we built this building and we built it with an upstairs in it to know that we were going to have a combination of department at some point. We know that we were not going to be able to sustain volunteers 100%. So we built that. We've always had a station resident here, even at the old station. The station 2, we had a station resident that could get a truck on the road during the evening hours, during midnight hours. Okay, that worked very, very well. Okay, I don't know what happened to the money. Okay, when I left office, there was plenty of money to run the fire department. You have to plan ahead. The purpose of government is not to accumulate money in funds unless you have a specific purpose for those funds. The purpose of government is to provide services that the public cannot provide themselves. This fire department is a long distance away from John Amy, who was one of the first founders of the fire department, who saw the need, and he purchased an old tanker and an Army Jeep, and he would go to his neighbors and help put out fires. From that impetus that John provided, the fire department was established in 1971. So we're coming up on our 50th anniversary. Can I? Okay. The fact is that the fire department needs our support, and we're trying to give the support here. The fire district, as Ms. Teesing said, removes the township and the township board from any control of the fire department. The commissioners would appoint a paid board, so it's another layer of government, another tax to go on top of that. That's why people didn't want that district. The township government, like it or not, is the closest to the people. And that's why townships still exist. Removing the township fire department from township control is not going to help us any. It's going to increase the taxes. If you look at what you got on your tax bill this last, when the bills came out this spring, you saw that most of us had a 50 to 75% increase due to that $440,000 loan. There is still money, as I understand it, there's still money left that hasn't been spent from that loan. That money is available. It's available for paying the firefighters. Okay? There are, I talked to Doug Forsman today, who was the first fire chief, and I told him about this idea of having volunteers come out to the fire scenes, et cetera. And he said our ISO rating now in hydranted areas is a 4, which is equivalent to city protection. He said in the non-hydrogen areas, if you live within 2 miles of a fire station, because we have tankers, that you have a fire protection rating of ISO of a 6. He said that puts us in the top 5% of volunteer firefighting firefighters in the nation. Okay, we're going to lose that. We're going to lose that if we have this idea that they're going to have volunteers sit in their house and wait for the calls to go out. We're going to lose all of that. So your insurance rates are going to go up if that happens. They're going to go up. Now, to this end, there have been a number of us who have been very, very concerned in the last year, and we finally decided to do something. We have gotten together a steering committee, and we are going to have a refocus on the fire department to see what the community can do to understand the issues, to understand budgeting, to understand how the fire department works, okay? How the ambulance service, what happened with the ambulance service. And that is a big problem when we lost that ambulance out here. So we're going to do it as an in-person meeting. It's going to be on the 28th of June. Unfortunately, we are going to, it's not going to be a public meeting because it's not sponsored by the township. It's just individuals getting together. So it's by reservation only. I have posted, I asked Sherry to post something on the Wabash Township website. There's an event link there that you can get a reservation. It's only open to members of or residents who live in the unincorporated township that is served by the township fire department. There will be a series of 3 meetings. We have a facilitator, and we're going to look and see what ideas do you guys all have that can help and get information to the people. So that's all I have. No. What are you going to do? It's just informing the public.
Just inform the public,
Inform the
but it's
public.
by reservation.
It's-
So what will come out of this meeting is what you want. You won't hear all your stuff.
Jim, they can hear.
You're welcome to come.
You're welcome to come.
Um,
You're welcome to come. Don't-
so-
It's a smaller facility, and you can sign up for it. First 70 people that show up. I don't know that we have facilities to do anything with Zoom. Look at that, we didn't think we'd get some. I don't know how many people are here.
Yeah.
And no, we're not a shadow government.
And then you'll present your findings to who?
The public. We'll post it.
When? Where?
Well, there's going to be 3 meetings. Hopefully out of the 3 meetings, there'll be study groups that come out. We did a strategic plan 25 years ago from the township. And we looked at the different issues. The reason 231 is placed where it was is because the community got together and said, it doesn't belong out there, it belongs in there. 231 belongs there. We were engaged in the committee and with the Department of Transportation as to exactly how that.
Did you invite the people from over there that had their houses?
To what? They have their houses.
Yeah.
I wasn't in charge of that either.
If I may,
This is what makes me nervous.
Miss, if I may interrupt, so like I want to this is more of a public comment, and so like you can refer questions to her individually, but that's not something that's related to the board, so we have to. Sorry. Yeah, to offer a public comment. That was it. To the comment?
They do, ma'am, they absolutely do, but we would just ask because we have limited time
Yeah.
and really serious, important matters. Not that this is,
Yeah.
but I'm sure Patricia Mason would be happy to speak to you folks, and you folks are here and engaged and invited, I'm certain of it. Just kind of see if you can direct those questions, and again, if you guys want to present that to your township government, of course, as our residents, please do.
Yeah. And so was there any other comment from the Zoom? I thought there was one more person on the Zoom, but if not, we'll move on to in person. I don't see anybody up. I'll go with him first because he had his hand raised throughout the entire time. You can come up forward and speak, comment, or question. And in general, the questions would be to the members of the board or the trustee. But
my name is Thomas McShannock. I'm a resident of the township. I'm a retired parish pastor for 40 years. I'm a retired volunteer firefighter. I was injured on the line of duty. I did not put it in the claim because I figured it was my duty to my community. There's some things there are facts that regardless of what politics you believe in, you cannot get around. One of them is this community has been growing and the construction methods and materials that are being used are toxic when they burn. That means every firefighter, volunteer or professional, who goes out and fights a fire shortens their life. You can't, it's statistically, that's what it is. Now, you can, as a community, you can either say, we don't need it and let it burn to the ground and my insurance will rebuild, or you start paying the insurance for the services. I can tell you that I would love to volunteer between 8 and 5, as long as I get my morning coffee before 10:30, because I don't function well before that, you know. I'm retired, I got the time. But the reason I'm shaking is not because I'm nervous. I've spoken before people before. That don't bother me. But my injury was to my right ankle, and it was never restored properly, nor will it ever be. I can't stand like you can. And so my admiration for you guys who are on the line, you have my respect. So if you want a department that is professional, you got to pay for it. If you don't want to pay for it, then don't let your house burn down. I don't care. The other thing I wish to make a comment as a pastor for over 40 years, as well as being part-time licensed therapist, rule of thumb was whoever pays me is my boss. Now I can sit in front of a congregation and I, Sunday after Sunday, quote scripture proving that whatever plan I think is divine and God had told me to do it, and that therefore all the people in the pews ought to follow along and do what I say. But those are volunteers, aren't they? And when push comes to shove, even though I may have the authority of the leadership, if I've lost the people, guess who has to move? Not the congregation. So that's in response to why are you still in position of authority? When you start grinding against the people that are the ones that hold the safety of your community in hand, I think you've lost your position. Thank you.
So we'll move on. I believe you had your hand raised next. You may come up front and speak.
My name is Gretchen Bertolat. I've been a resident of the township for a little over 20 years. I first like to say that I in no way want to see the fire department discontinued in any way, shape, or form. But I have one question. I have two questions. My first question is to the board, and that is, what is your fiduciary responsibility for this township? It is my understanding that you approved a budget in January, and yet things have happened. And how have those things happened with you as the board? And the second thing is, we can talk and yell and accuse, but I want to know from the board what can be done to make sure that June 29th, 2021 does not mark the end of this fire department?
I can respond to that. So first off, it's a great question. So thank you for asking it. So just a quick clarification. We approved the budget in October, or approximately, for the whole fiscal year of January through December. But other than that, you're right. So we approved the budget and we set aside money to be able to have fire department coverage throughout the entirety of this year. There's still the money there to do that. The question that the board will have to consider at some point, and we hope to be able to provide some versions of what that could look like tonight, and I think that we have a resolution that we will intend to introduce. But we'll have some discussion prior to that and whatnot, since it hasn't been communicated and it was brought upon us rather quickly given the circumstances. We only found out about this, specifically her terminating the firefighters yesterday. So it was after the meeting agenda had been posted and everything, and within the 48 hours time frame. So it's outside a specific regular order, but we'll make sure to communicate that. It's just difficult circumstances. So, as far as what can be done, there's a couple of things. One of them is an emergency loan, which all of this board has been in favor. And I got your nods that this board would support an emergency loan to continue the service of current people if that was the only option necessary? Yeah. All right. That's one of the options. Obviously, it's not the ideal situation. We've had 2 years to work towards one of the other alternatives, be it fire district or fire territory. And this board has encouraged the trustee to do it. It hasn't been done. There hasn't been work carried out. There wasn't a feasibility study carried out for a territory. There was only one carried out for a district, and that one was published after we asked for her to resign in January. So that was first published around February. Would that be accurate? That was sent to us just prior to the February 9th meeting. So yeah, so that would be my response to that as the board. Did I miss any part of your question so far?
I would say a lot of things. Number one, I want to understand clearly what the board is responsible for
Yeah.
from a financial point of view.
So-
Having served on boards, having been directed by boards.
Yeah.
Movement of money from funds to funds.
So-
Has to come through.
Yeah, so we haven't moved any money from any fund to any other fund. And as I understand it, there hasn't been any unauthorized movement of funds either. Just to be clear, I'm fairly certain that's been the case. There hasn't been any movement of funds. We have the leftover funds from last year, and then we will have around early July, we will have an influx of the tax levy that will come in. And then we'll have the remainder of that portion will come in around December 31st or approximately there. Well, a little bit before that, but early December is, if I remember the timeline precisely, that'll be like the remaining bits, because some people pay taxes in November. Yeah. or October, sorry.
In terms of our responsibility, though, we double as both the Wabash Township Board, but also the fiscal oversight board. We all three are on that.
Yeah.
As well. So that is a well-founded question. Are the body responsible? Realm. Now, we are not the executive, however. We set forth a budget that is presented to trustee. We have some say in what that looks like, some very collaborative, and the Wabash Township Board, as most boards around the state, have very limited tools in our to actually oversee and check that power of the executive. So in our toolbox, you can present that budget and go numbers down versus kind of present our own past that and force an executive to live with it. Regardless, though, if we negotiate out a budget that is precisely how we would like to see it properly, it is taken upon an executive to execute that budget. So, for example, we allocated nearly $19,000 for township assistance for last year.
2020.
In 2019, allocation for fiscal year. That was our COVID year. We gave out less than $5,000 of that money. We did use other resources that were federal and state, but we left money on the table and we left folks in need out in the cold. There's not much that this board can do about that except draw attention to it. And make it known. Now, folks in the township have the ability to go look at our disbursement through a kind of clunky system called we too have that access. We could have more access. In my first week on this role, I asked that the board have our own login, something that the trustee can work from. I believe it's SBOA, the State Board of Accounts, or the Department of Local Government and Finance, but I believe it's That's never occurred. Now, other things have come up, and I have not re-sought that
and kind of
get most of what I need from what. That being said, there have been numerous occasions where we've asked that we are legally entitled to and responsible for. But have there been also many times where we don't receive a lick of that, let alone acknowledgement of having asked for it? You bet. Just about every time up until this calendar year when we started receiving here and there. So our oversight is limited because we are a very person-based local government. Person's right. We're the most local form of government. People can essentially get away with as much leeway as anybody in any position of power will give them. We are not in a position of power to stop the trustee or to alter her actions. We have some tools in our tool chest that we will look at, but we're limited. Who have the ability to remove her or to change her role as trustee are judiciary. Who are doing their work currently. So I will have to let them do their job. I will have to let the court system work. The township will at least have to let the court system work. Now there are other petitions and things that homeowners can do and residents can do. There are some small things that we can do. We will explore those and at every step do what we can. But we have limited availability. Now, that being said, again, meetings like this, where you have such protection, really helps.
Yeah.
In regards to my second question, in terms of what we can do to make sure June 29th doesn't come, well, it's going to come, but I would like to know if we could subvert the agenda and go to the point where you present the resolution.
We're just so stupid.
Here as to what you can do if the fire department.
We can. That would take a motion from the board. I know that in past meetings, Brendan hasn't been a fan of jumping around, but I will leave it up to one of the members to present a resolution, a motion to do so. And then we can come back to public comment if they're amenable.
Yeah, I'll move to go ahead and suspend public comment for the time being, folks, so that we can proceed to our new business. Under item,
It's review, and then four.
So we'll move to
item number 7 and section A of that section, of that item.
Let me pull this up over here. I do.
Assuming that I have a second.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me on parliament.
And thank you, Jen. I appreciate it.
Let me grab this so that I can move it over there.
Why are these people? What's the road?
All right, so it was moved over here. Sorry, and as you probably heard Brendan moved that we suspend public comment and skip over to agenda item of 7, so new business. A, review of 2020 finances to date, and 4, recommendation and possible request for movement of funds to be considered in the following meeting. Obviously, that was a section under which we would introduce it, given that it was thrust upon us. We would generally have these resolutions ahead of time available, but this was informed to us yesterday. So I do apologize for the fact that it's not in perfect parliamentary process. All right. So understand that, is this the correct one? All right, so I'll read it in its entirety. So it's a fund transfer resolution pursuant to IC 36-6616, one-time transfer of excess fund balances. This section does not apply to a township that is a distressed political subdivision under Indiana Code 6.1.120.3. As used in this section, township fund does not include a debt service fund of a township. C, notwithstanding any other law, a township legislative body in a public meeting may authorize a one-time transfer of any excess balance or part of an excess balance from any township fund to any other township fund. A township legislative body may transfer excess balances from multiple township funds. However, all transfers must be authorized by the township legislative body at one time. Subject to subsection D, a township must complete all transfers that are authorized by this section not later than September 1st, 2021. Any money transferred under this section may be used for any lawful purpose for which money in the fund to which the balance is transferred may be used. Whereas the Township Board of Wabash Township, Tippecanoe County, Indiana, has reviewed the statutes cited above. Whereas it has been determined that an excess balance has been identified in a township fund, now therefore, be it resolved by the Township Board of Wabash Township, Tippecanoe County, Indiana, transfers the following: $500,000 from the cumulative fire fund to the firefighting fund, adopted this blank day of month 2021. We'll go into discussions. I'll allow, you don't have access to a mic, so when you speak, if you could stand up. Brendan does have access to a mic. I do apologize, yeah. So,
when Brendan talks, I'm gonna have to try to understand. Some people are complaining you're echoing a little
yeah.
bit. So I'll just go up and talk. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it.
Excuse me, my name is David Tate. I've just been on the board 2 months.
Welcome to the
So you can imagine I'm a little overwhelmed here with some of this, but I can tell you that I've talked to every fire chief, the mayor, everybody involved in this, multiple fire people, financial consultants, and this is the best move. It's not something I think is typically done in circumstances like this, but I think you all have to agree these are really extenuating circumstances. None of us can predict what will happen between now and November 2022 when the next election shows up. This is the least we can do to protect these people. And if we do not do this, I have no idea, nor do you, what's coming down the pike. We cannot predict this. And this is what has been offered to us by financial consultants that know the fire system statewide. It was offered to us to pursue this. We debated it, we discussed it, we looked at the pros and cons, and this is for you. Like the gentleman said, we don't want a 5-minute delay in responding to anything. We don't want a delay. These men and women who do this as a profession do this at their own risk. They need our support now. That's what this is for. Thank you.
To add a little bit of context as to what this entails, sorry, I'm just pulling up, I have some numbers here. So when we did an estimate around the time that we had established retirement benefits, which have been delayed due to the trustee not actually following through on the IMPRS process, we determined that over the course of the year, when we were finished with everything, we would have approximately $175,000 to $100,000 left over between two funds which are used for firefighting. That would be the 1111 firefighting fund and the, let me make sure I get this right number right, the 1101 emergency medical fire. As of May 18th, we have about a combined roughly, just up rounding, $290,000 left between these two funds. We're expecting to receive an additional $207,665 for the firefighting fund from our certified levy, as well as an additional $20,392 from miscellaneous revenue streams. That means, as I said, at the end of the year, with these three paid guys and having no fire chief at the moment and having no fire chief throughout the entirety of the year, if we adopted a 4-year plan for purchasing the previous service for the 3 firefighters, over there actually, for the 3 firefighters, that would mean that we would end up with $175,000 to $180,000, as I said. In addition to that, that would mean that for the year 2022, which would be the last year of our administration as a township board and Trustee Tysing's scheduled administration as a township trustee, we would have a shortfall of $108,000 to sustain the fire department at current levels through the end of 2022. What that means is that we, as a board, would have to figure out what we're going to do for next year. One of the options that has been on the table in the past and which the board has repeatedly stated we would support would be an emergency fire loan if one were necessary to make sure that we can ensure the current level of service, which isn't ideal either. it's a good level of service, but we can still do better. And our firefighters and our firefighter leadership believe that we need to expand a little bit further to be in an ideal situation, right? But the trustee has stated that we are not going to move, that we are not going to do a second emergency loan. Her thinking has changed over time as to why that is, but she stated that we're not going to do that. In past meetings, she said that I do not support that, even though my position has always been that I want to make sure these guys are there, and if that means a fire loan, so be it. It doesn't mean in place so that we're not going year to year trying to figure out a fire loan. So, but anyway, what this movement of $500,000 from the Cume Fire Fund would do would be to make sure that we can get through the end of fiscal year 2023. So it would put in an additional year for a next township trustee and a next township board to begin to do the work and ideally figure out a permanent solution, or if the need be, they would still be able to use their resources to seek out an emergency loan if that were necessary, since we would have only used one over the course of, 4 years. So we would have a second one that we can use, so we'd be fine. Now, obviously, doing something so large does come with its own concerns. Moving money from the Cume Fire Fund, historically the Cume Fire Fund has been used for purchase of larger pieces of equipment. That's what historically it has been used for. You know, we get a certain money allocated through levy, and so it's used for capital investments primarily. However, we right now as a state have a program called HELP, which is essentially allowing us to do capital expenditures and investment at a rate of approximately 1.67%. Did I get that right, Jim? Perfect. 1.67%, which would allow us, if the need be, to buy a fire truck in that meantime, or like a piece of equipment or a large piece of equipment, we would have the resources and the ability to move in that direction. I mean, in first mentioning this as putting it to the agenda, I stated that it does feel a little bit like robbing Peter to pay Paul. But we recognize that we need to make sure that we maintain the current level of funding throughout the end of a term. And for that reason, I would vote to support a movement of $500,000 from the cumulative fire fund to make sure that we can stave off the current situation of the township as allowed by the section of code that we previously stated, 36.6.616. Brendan, do you want to speak? Yeah, I'll make a couple comments.
I'll just take this moment to add a brief bit of context. Pardon me, camera. I know the trustee wanted to add some context too, and I think that makes a lot of sense. She was elected to this position, as was I. We have been in this position the entire time. So she served, and I've been there to kind of see and to cope with and to try to talk to the public as well. I would, for example, stay after meetings and talk to folks and ask questions. There were a lot of people who opposed the first fire loan. There was a lot of scrutiny about raising taxes. I think that's well-founded, especially when there's questions of leadership. I think that you must have public buy-in for big moves. We need your buy-in for this move. I can tell you that I too support this. I think long-term, which I think could be in a sentence in and of itself. In fact, we think long-term. We understand that one has not one option. The trustee did pick one. She did pick an option that would provide sustainable funding for theoretically the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, that option would have us go in alone. So if we picked a district and decided to kind of just go in alone, we are then shifting the burden to make up the difference. So for example, if we need to be at X value and we're only getting about 3/4 X, if we're only part of the way there, and the city of West Lafayette is maxed out in terms of its tax levy, the burden to get to that value is placed entirely on the unincorporated parts of this township. That is a concern for me. That is a concern for a lot of people in this room, I wager. And those folks who were concerned about raising their taxes for our first emergency loan, guarantee you they're concerned about that too. There are other options on the table. We don't have one door. The other options require partnerships. To get to those partnerships, we need leadership that is stable and leadership that other folks and leaders in this community, some of whom I see in this room, can actually trust, can negotiate with in good faith. What the other folks in the community are telling you. There are other townships, I'll try not to name names, but there are surrounding townships that we've had relationships with for years that in theory before this term would have been open to considering some kind of partnership to go in together. There's a neighboring city that is also at one point was open to, and perhaps with fresh leadership might be again. But the problem is these folks are pushed away by leadership that is hostile, that is not reliable, that is inconsistent, and is certainly not dependable when you're looking at long-term governing strategies for local municipalities. Long story short, folks, we have other options, but we cannot explore those better options at the time, given the current leadership. That being said, this board has options to try to provide stopgap measures to make sure we do have sufficient time and also fire protection in that time. The goal is to get to sufficient and sustainable. But right now, this board is quite happy to make sure that we can tell our constituents, the folks who put us in this office and the folks most at risk here, we can tell you that we are working to make sure we have fire protection and that the burden doesn't fall entirely on the city of West Lafayette. Sure, we don't have a formalized agreement, trustee. However, the city of West Lafayette would not let us just twist in the wind and burn. The city would send people. And if they expected to be paid, I think that that would make sense to go ahead and send that equipment and for us to pay for services rendered. I think that that is an interesting position for the trustee to take, but I think it's not taking into account the full breadth of the situation. Again, you don't have to have a written agreement to do the right thing. That's what the city of West Lafayette would do, and we're appreciative. We actually have a city council person from the city of West Lafayette in here this evening. I appreciate you taking part, James, and paying attention to the township issues. That is showing good leadership in this community, and I would actually wager that we are lacking that in a very severe capacity. So thank you again, James, and thank you folks for being here this evening. Know that we as a board are working to find sufficient and sustainable funding that doesn't abuse the taxpayer. Thank you.
So again, just to reiterate, this would be a movement of $500,000. Obviously, it's a big thing. It's money that's been previously allocated, and received, and it's currently in the township accounts and would be used to be able to continue the process of keeping these guys around. Now, what that would mean would be that money would then have to be appropriated and be part of the budget process for next year. As we've stated, it's allowed by the letter of the law and the intentions of the law. And what we would be doing is making sure that that money is transferred, as I've stated, and then next year that could be allocated, for example, to cover the remaining $108,000. And then the remaining money of it could be allocated still to that fund, but knowing that that would cover year 2023, the gap between current funding level and what we need to receive to maintain the current level of service. So if it's okay with the board members, just because of the gravity of the situation and the fact that we interrupted public comments, unless board member Tate or board member Betts has a comment that they would like to add, I would move that we have an opportunity to resume public comment and members of the public can comment on the resolution at hand being considered. Is there a motion to move to public comment?
And I'll second that motion.
All right, and all those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, I'll begin with the members in person this time. I saw a hand. Yeah. Would you like to come to the front and be able to speak? Just so that it's recorded and people on the, sorry. And so that specifically the trustee can hear you.
I just was wondering why you can't pass the resolution now.
Oh, we may. We're just asking for public comment on the.
Public comments not on the resolution.
Yes.
I vote yes.
I think, let me see the order in which I saw the hands. I believe I saw you first, sir. You may come and speak.
Well, I'm just asking for a clarification. You're gonna move $500,000 from one fund to another.
Yeah.
So that the firefighters can be paid
Through 2023, yeah.
Through 2023.
Correct.
Okay. Now, is this binding? Your vote going to be binding on this?
Indeed, it would be binding. The money would be there. Now, let me clarify that we provide the money. How the trustee uses this is her decision, but we're providing the money.
Okay,
there's two things here. Yeah, there's two things here.
Excuse me, there's still a person talking over here.
Things that they're referring to.
The resolution here, if approved, could it be overridden or?
No. The money would be on the 1111 fund. It would be there.
So this money will be spent on what you intended
Yeah.
to be spent. No one can interfere with that.
Yeah. And it would not be currently allocated. It would be allocated as part of the of the process that we'll be undertaking starting in July. And then it'll go through and be finished. And then that'll be allocated for the year 2022, which runs January through December. Yeah.
And it's where the shortfall happens.
Yeah, because we're able to get through December. It's never been a point of question whether we can get through the end of the year. The question that the reason why there's no funds supposedly is the next year we would have to figure out a solution. Doesn't mean that we're in a, it's not an ideal situation to be in, but it's not something that requires firing people. And
Takes away justification.
No, it's a transition plan.
And so there was other public comments. I see
Would you like
a
to
hand
hear
over there. I see a hand over there. Would you like to speak over here? Yeah, come over here. You are able to speak. Yeah, and if you come over here to the mic, it can be heard by participants on Zoom. Sorry.
My name is Amos Miller. I'm a resident in the Wabash Township. The concern I would have is, does the full amount of the 500,000 actually have to be moved? Or can it be piecemealed for just the amount of time that we need it? Because robbing all that money from equipment.
I know the answer.
It's a one-time transfer.
Yep.
Can't be done piecemeal, it has to be one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's if I may,
I
finish the
got
question,
you.
sorry.
That answers it. That's fine. The other component is if we don't have buy-in from how the money is going to be used, or if Trustee Tising is going to agree to this, then why are we actually going to go ahead and move the money just to have the money into an account where we're maybe hoping somebody resigns, or if a court order or something like that comes about?
Thank you for the question. The board is using their authority, which is to move money, to make sure that we have the funds to be able to pay our fire department through the end of year 2023. And what that entails, actually, just to add a question, moving money, just to add a clarification that I might have not been clear earlier. If there is a remaining piece of that needs to be used for fire equipment, the 1111 fund allows for money to be used for fire equipment, given that it is a firefighting fund. We've corroborated with both Deputy Lewis as well as other people that have experience, including with the ITA and individuals in other townships that have legislative experience when it comes to township government. Was there another public comment? I saw a couple of hands. You may come up. You're recognized.
My name is Chris Deckard. I'm a resident of Wabash Township. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness of this concept from the board. It's definitely providing for the firefighters, and it's a move in it's not the best solution, right? But it is a solution that helps us get to somewhere else. So I guess I have two questions. First, I'm hoping that this was done in consultation with the firefighters, that they recognize this as a need and are on board with this as well.
I'll allow a member of the department, I'll allow Deputy Lewis to come and speak.
Yes, we had a lot of discussion about it.
Okay.
And it was the best solution that we come up with at this time to guarantee that the funds were available, so there was not a budget crunch, so that we could go ahead and maintain our staffing level as it is through the year 2023.
Okay.
The good thing about it is it doesn't increase anybody's taxes whatsoever. Also, since the money would be in the 1111 fund, if something breaks and we need a capital expenditure, we can use the money for that also.
Okay.
So we are moving it out of the cumulative capital fund. But if we had a disaster, we could still use it for that. And the other thing is that the cumulative capital fund will see another $300,000 infusion at the first year.
Okay.
So it's an ongoing fund and it replenishes itself.
And there's no immediate need that this is going to take away from that is more important than supporting the paid fire.
$100,000 left in the Q cap fund,
Okay.
which will get us by for the small items that we will need. We will not need to purchase another piece of apparatus for probably 3 years.
Okay.
So we should be okay.
Okay. And so, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to add a comment, like a clarification there as well. That's $100,000 roughly, or a little bit. Let me double check the number specifically.
99,000.
Yeah, so right now, exactly. So there would be just under 100,000 by a couple dollars. And then that is, as of right now, we would have $100,000 left. Once the money from the levy comes in, my understanding is we'll get another approximate, and this is a rough estimate. I don't have the figure right in front of me, but my understanding is we appropriate about $300,000 each year that comes into the cumulative fire fund.
Increments in June.
And yeah, exactly. So by the end of $1,000 in addition to this 500 that we may also be able to use in the case of an emergency or whatnot.
I have some information about the cumulative fire fund that I think might be helpful and pertinent to your meeting and to your petition.
You're recognized for a minute.
Okay, so the CUME Fire Fund is a fund that was set up specifically. It has its own tax rate. So when it's established that way, so like if you look on your tax bill, you'll see it. It's its own fund. So when it's set up that way, you have to designate what those funds can be used for. And so I spoke to the state about this when I came into office to see if we could use the CUME fire funds for operations. And they informed me that we cannot. So that fund specifically exceeded the tax cap, and it was put in place for new equipment. So for instance, the way that it was established, it says specifically what you can use it for. So you can't even use the money in the CUME Fire Fund for like maintenance on a truck. It's very specific. It has to be new equipment and new equipment only.
And that's correct. That is what it is stated. However, as a result, am I correct in understanding that this was a law, like a change that happened during this session? It was a relatively recent thing. Yeah. This is an exception to that, which allows you to move money from any fund to any other fund. It basically allows for one-time transfer from any township fund to the fire fund or rainy day fund. This was passed in 2019 for implementation in 2020, but with the governor's executive order, it is continued to September 1st, 2021. And as a result of that, by moving $500,000 to that fund, we would be able to continue to support the firefighters. And as we've stated, yes, we'll still have some money available. And if we have to take a loan, we have the HELP program, which offers a very attractive rate of 1.67% for major capital investments. Chris, you are recognized.
I just have one final question. So let's assume that we are going to check with the state and make sure that that is appropriate use of and following the law. But my question would be to Trustee Theising, if the board moves these funds over, will you at least consider the use of these funds to continue the paid firefighter positions through 2023 as the board has tried to work out?
This is the first I'm hearing about this.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to look and see, what exactly it is that they're doing and what they're proposing and what we can do and what's legally allowed for us to do. So when the board puts something like that because they don't move money, right? I mean, they do, but they don't, right? They issue the authority to the trustee to move the money. And so I will definitely look into it. Sure.
And in this case, it would be a transfer that would be authorized by the board explicitly as stated by the code. Anyway, so that is what that would do. Is there any other public comment from the floor, be it in person or over the Zoom? I see would it be related to this particular issue? For a moment, we'll go back to public comment in a second for general purposes. Give us a second. Another of the calls that the department responds to. I will add, yeah, I will add some levity to the situation and say that this would cost $915. But anyway, going back to public comment, is there anybody that has a public comment at the moment? Oh, I'll recognize you after her, sorry. Yeah, on this subject, yeah.
If you have a comment on this particular topic, could you please form a line over?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
My name's Diane Lehman, and I'm a longtime resident of Tippecanoe County. 25 years married to a firefighter, volunteer firefighter. And that right there is why we need that money allocated in a special way. If you can imagine that being your loved one and your tax money going to the quick response that those folks just left this very important meeting for, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to respond. That was my mom last week. And I thank God that the volunteers came and picked her up and took her to the hospital, because she would be dead if not for our volunteers. That wait time is important. It's tragic. We're not talking money. 500,000 is a lot of money. I get that. I may not ever have that in my lifetime, but it's that response. I beg of you, is this your relative? These are your taxpayers. These are your constituents. Take care of them. Take care of these guys and these women.
I'm recognized. They comment and I think we need to put a time frame on when the trustee would get back on this. I think if I'm not mistaken, 2 weeks from today, these guys are fired. Is that right? Okay. So I guess Trustee Tyson, I think we need, like, can you do your thing tomorrow? Can you give us a time frame when you would respond back to approve this initiative that the advisory board has put through?
Yes, so the firefighters and myself have been working for 4 months to transition them off of the SAP. We've known this was coming. This is not a surprise. This is not new information. I just want you to know that, it's been presented here tonight as if this is a new conversation that we're having, and it's not.
Well, I think it's a new conversation for a lot of people around here, ma'am. I don't know how much you've been communicating, but first of all, I think the fire department itself is in near crisis. Okay. So the question I would have is, how many active firefighters do we have right now? Can you give me that answer?
Are you asking about volunteers and paid staff?
I'm asking about the grand total.
I don't have that number on me right now.
Okay.
It
Jen,
fluctuates between
can I get a
15 and
number?
20.
There's currently about 20 volunteers on the roster, about 15 of them.
15 are active, and that includes the paid firefighters, right?
And if I could ask a question to follow up there, how many did we would have had, like, maybe a year ago at this point? Did we have 20 also?
We would have probably had,
oh, so we've lost 10. All right.
And since the beginning of her term at the peak, we're at
Yeah.
45, correct?
it was between 35.
First of all, let me just say that I think some of the numbers that Jim gave today showed that we're going to run about 1,400 runs this year. Okay, you take away 3 immediate response. So let's say we had 18, we go down to 15. They've lost firefighters that go to Purdue, right? That are home for the summer. So we're down probably 2 or 3. That's been the norm. I think that there's no initiative or no motivation for volunteers to apply to this department at this point. I think that it is the press has been so negative that it has been such a circus that people don't want to touch it. I think that we should be, these guys, you've got 10 or 15 guys trying to do 12 or 1,300 runs. It's impossible. We need to be finding a way to fund these guys. We need to find a way to fund additional firefighters. And we need to make sure that, for example, Patty, what Patty was presenting here today, that's the first thing that I saw that was about planning for tomorrow. That's what we're trying to do. Plan for tomorrow. That's what she's doing. That's what a lot of people. And I don't see planning for tomorrow. I see giving up and finding a way not to do something. Instead, we got to find some way to do something. And I think that this is something. This is not the ideal, but this is something that has to be done. We're in a crisis. I think if the Wabash Township people, I think the word is getting out about how desperate things are and what kind of a stress. You guys have to be going crazy. No sleep. I was on the department for 18 years, firefighter and EMT. I know, and there's a lot of other people in here the same way. And I think that we've got to have an understanding of what it is going forward we want to do. And if this is a stopgap that we have to do, it's a stopgap we got to do. And you need to give a commitment now so we don't lose 3 of the 18 that we have now. Will you put your time in and get it committed to stop this firing of those 3 people?
Yeah, if I wasn't clear before, I apologize. I told you I would, yeah, I'm going to look at it, of course.
Okay. We have a 2-week period.
I understand
Immediate?
I understand what the timeline is. Sure.
Okay.
I will look at it before the 29th of June, of course.
We need to, so go ahead.
Yeah, a comment like what the board intends to do, and like, again, it wasn't in the original agenda because we didn't expect to need to have an emergency meeting, but the board's plan is to have a meeting next week so that we can hear a plan to use this money as necessary to continue to have the 3 paid fire guys. And then we'll be allocating the rest during all of it during the budget season for the years 2022 and 2023. I would add a comment. I appreciate your comment, actually. I would also say that prior to his termination, Chief Ward was working on beginning to establish a 5-year plan, for example, so that we could actually have a solution, a permanent solution. And I want to say that that foundation has been really helpful, and it's really been disappointing and frustrating to see the work that Chief Ward did lost because he was terminated.
Yeah, Anton, can I make a point of clarification there? I don't understand what you're saying about what isn't on the
as chair,
you said that you didn't have it on.
I appreciate it. So
a
we'll be
special
calling
meeting?
for the
Is that what you're
question
saying?
right now. Do I have a second? Second it. So being a second, question has been called. I would move that we vote by roll call rather than ayes and nays, just for simple measure. So you can call it, Brendan.
Chair.
Aye.
Member David Tate.
Aye.
And Secretary Brendan Betts is also an aye.
All right.
just let the record reflect that we have resolved to move the $500,000 from the cumulative fire fund to the 1111 fund, the firefighting fund, and it was a unanimous vote of 3-0. All right, so I know that obviously there's still a lot of public comment, and I would like people to still have an opportunity to go through that public comment. Would I have a motion to return to regular order?
So moved. Do we have a second?
There's a second. All in favor? All opposed? All right, so we will be returning to public comment in general. So I'd recognize Ms. Roth. If you want to come this side, there's probably a path for you. No cables in the middle. So.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Hi. I actually had back and front sheet questionnaire. We're going to go ahead and skip a bunch of those. Unfortunately, I'm just so pleased that so many constituents have showed up both in person and online, and they've asked a good portion of my questions, so we can move along from that. The first thing I would like to do is, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank the fire department and everything that you've done, that you do, that you stand for. I've been a constituent for a year here in this township. I have not needed to call on your service, but just knowing that you are there means everything to me and my family. And on top of that, I appreciate that you would take such a toxic work environment. That says everything about your character. It says everything about what you are really here for and what you guys are working for. You are working for the people. You are actually working. Your whole job is literally to stand on call, to wait, to save homes and lives. Homes and lives, my home, my life, my neighbor's home, my neighbor's life, my 3 children. And in the meantime, you're dealing with tyranny, and it's terrible. So again, thank you so much. Don't applaud me. Please let's applaud the fire department and the EMS. EMT, sorry. Thank you. Second of all, I have a question about why the office is still closed. And I see a sign on the door as of yesterday. It's been a month ago. I've been a couple different times to meet with Tyson, and I'm sure she'll tell you, oh, you need to make an appointment. Fine, whatever. I'll enjoy talking to one of the fire department people when I'm here. But why are we closed? Every other governmental office is open in town, I believe locally, I believe throughout Indiana. There's absolutely no reason for us to be closed at this point and handling your faces, the constituents, seeing you in person and having those direct conversations. So I want to know why the office is still closed. That's directed at you, Ms. Heising.
I'm not sure what date the office was opened, but it was.
It's not. That's the problem. I'm
No,
asking why it's still closed.
Yeah, the office is not closed. It was reopened after the COVID pandemic. I want to say 2 weeks now. I'm not sure.
Why is there still a sign on the door that says, due to abundance of precaution, the office is still closed? I was just here yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that sign came from.
Then that leads me to my next question of, you would know that if you were here regularly. So how much time are you spending in the office? How much time are you willing to have face-to-face with people?
Okay, well, I was just in the office on Monday, and that sign was not on the office on Monday. So,
well, I call bullshit on that. But anyways, so how often do you spend time in the office? Because I've asked around and I've heard it's about 1 hour a week, if even. Where are you at? Why aren't you here in person? And your whole thing of, you couldn't hear me last time, it's Zoom. You know, nobody even knew there was an in-person meeting last time. Just like nobody knew that we were supposed to be signing petitions to send to you to get, give you whatever. Okay, I never got a petition. I've been living here for a year.
Yeah. So we got the list of people that we sent the petition to from the county of who the property owners were in the county that were paying taxes. So that's where we got that list. As I was answering your first question about the office being closed, we waited for 2 weeks after the office staff had received their vaccination and they were fully vaccinated, and we opened the office. I was just in there again yesterday.
Why aren't you here every day?
And that was not the sign on the door. So
it was. And why aren't you here every day?
I do not work in the office every day.
Do you work in the office hardly ever?
I work in the office when it's needed. And
Which
if
is
you
pretty much
have
every
you
day right now, being
have
what's
you
going on.
contacted-
The
have
fact
you
that this
contacted
many
the office
people
about an
are
appointment?
speaking against the choices you're making, show your face. Show your face and allow people to speak to you and tell you their truth. Because I've been listening for a year that I've lived in this township. I haven't heard one thing of support for you, not one time. I have not heard a family member, a friend, or a single constituent or fire department people, and I've met with a lot of them, turns out, and I haven't heard one bit of support for you. Not one. Where are the supporters who are backing your decisions? Which another constituent already asked.
So as I asked you, have you contacted the office and set an appointment with me? Because I don't know who you are.
Interested in that, and you're not going to flip it around on me. I don't fall for those sort of games. So the point is, you have an office. It's not open. There's a sign on the door. There's been a sign on the door, and it's time for you to face the people. Secondly, I'm familiar with the fact that you got an email on June 8th from the fire department that suggested this, they want to bring a proposal to you. You denied putting it on the agenda. You hadn't gotten it in time. So you denied putting it on the agenda. So we're not supposed to talk about it, whatnot. But what I want to say is I found out that you did not get back to them for a week later until the 14th. It's been requested by them over 2 times to meet with you about this potential proposal. And finally, what you ended up telling them was, I'm not responding anymore. Do you have an explanation?
I'm sorry, what is your name?
You know who I am at this point.
I honestly
We'll make it real clear. We'll make it real clear. The first time we interacted on social media,
so would you
the
like
first
me
time
to
we
respond?
interacted on social media, I stated to you, not giving assistance to a single person, particularly during a pandemic, and firing someone that is doing their job well on Christmas Eve, someone who is esteemed in this arena, is cruelty. And making decisions for the community like that is not in the best interest and does not speak for me. And your response to me on that page, on your Facebook Township page, was, are you here to get the truth? I've never seen you at a board meeting. I don't know you. So I'm Jamie Roth. Are we clear? Secondly, I would like everybody to let the record state that Ms. Tyson has missed 7 out of 10 meetings in the past year from 2020 to 2021. And it is the code of the Wabash Township that she can be sued for $100 every time she misses a meeting. Indiana code, thank you. That she can be sued for $100 every time she misses a meeting. I encourage all constituents to think about doing that. It's small claims court. It's not a big deal. And maybe this is a way to raise your voice and to show that you do not agree with her decisions and put her to task. I know I will. You can look forward to that coming soon. And let's see. Let me just make sure before I leave, because I was very prepared for this. Okay, I think I've nailed it. Any questions?
Do we have any more public comment? I see Bryce McCarty. Bryce, you are recognized.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. My first question is for Ms. Teesing. The first question is, I understand you have concerns about sustainability. Those are certainly your prerogative because it's your job to make sure that we're fiscally responsible in the township. With that being said, can you please define what you would consider to be sustainable for the wages for full-time firefighters for our township?
You're asking me what I think the full-time firefighters should be paid?
No, ma'am. I'm asking, you said that sustainability is
Oh,
important
in the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
And
okay.
with that being said, what would be your
I'll take
definition
a-
of what you would consider sustainable?
So what the budget can support is what you're asking me. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. What are you saying would be considered sustainable? A year's worth, 2 years worth, indefinitely? What are you defining as sustainable?
Okay, so I think what you're asking me is what why the 2 full-time staff that we originally had in 2019 when I came into office, why that wasn't sustainable under our budget.
No, ma'am. I'm asking what a budget would have to look like in order for you to consider it sustainable.
Okay. I think so. I think I was saying it a different way. So basically, the tax rate is capped, right? So we request all of the available money that we have from the state. And when I came into office and looked at the budget that we had 2 full-time paid firefighters with no health insurance and no retirement benefits. And we had 1 part-time staff working, 1 part-time chief position. And we were spending more money than we received with those staff members. So we do not have in our budget, we cannot afford, as it stands today, without a tax increase to support them for the long term, we do not have the ability to have any full-time paid staff members with benefits.
Yes, ma'am.
So in
Thank you
order
for
to be, yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying thank you for answering the question. My second question was going to be to the board specifically. Do we have funds currently available to support full-time firefighters for the next 3 years until the next election?
Define next 3 years through 2023 or 2024?
2023.
Yes, we have the funding, and especially with the movement of funds that we authorized today. My estimate, and let me see if I have the specific number there. I believe, and I'm sorry, like I can give you a specific number at some point, but we have about $283,000 stopgap that we'll need for 2023. We have 108, sorry, that we'll need for 2022. So that's the bigger number, obviously, is 2023, further out. The transfer of money authorized from the CUME fund to the firefighting fund would allow us to be able to maintain the staff through 2023. Obviously, this isn't like a permanent solution. We've still spoken. We would have liked to have seen by this point work to be done, for example, going to West Lafayette with a feasibility study that never occurred. So that's one of the alternatives on the table. And I think one that multiple board members, financial advisor, and other have said is the most attractive option. Obviously would involve conversations with West Lafayette. Conversations are not inclined to have with current.
On how we have had conversations with
Ms.
them.
Tyson, we have not presented a feasibility study.
We did not present a feasibility study because I met with the mayor and with the chief of the fire department, and they are not interested.
Ms. Tyson, excuse me, we also met with Chief Heath. I individually did, and he personally asked me, present a feasibility study and we can begin the conversation. And in that situation, you chose not to do so. Ms. Tyson, please.
You aren't being
Ms.
honest.
Tyson, I am speaking.
Intellectually honest.
You are not recognized.
You are not being honest about what's happening in the township.
Ms. Tyson, you are not recognized.
I don't.
Ms. Tyson, you are not recognized.
And allow you.
Ms. Tyson, you are not recognized. As chair of this meeting, you are not recognized. God,
I am leaving this meeting.
Ms. Tyson, you are not recognized.
July 20th.
Ms. Tyson,
I am happy
can you kick her out of the
talk
meeting,
to the
please?
public at that time. I will be there in person at the next meeting.
Please.
Thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
I apologize, folks. That is not the way government should function. Thank you.
Everybody's muted.
There you go. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what I was saying is that 48 years of working in industry, large and small, I've only seen one CEO who had a management style similar to yours, and he got fired because he nearly brought the company to its knees. I just can't believe what I'm seeing and hearing today. You live in your own little world, and you think that because you see it and you know it and you want it and you're right, that you can't consider any other viewpoint. That's what I'm getting out of this. You need to adjust your style if you want to get anything done. Now, you stated that you sent out petitions to people in the township, who are township residents, to support the fire district and the tax increase. Baloney, I never got one. The only thing I got was a one-page circular after the talks with the firefighters to enlist them to help get that done collapsed. As far as the total government goes, any plan that you guys have to go forward and support the firefighters needs to be publicized and sold. I learned in industry that you just don't, here's my project and everybody rubber stamps it. So when all, the talk about, well, I had this and we're going to 3-year funding and all that stuff, and we're going to create the fire district, and where was the public notice of this? Is everybody just supposed to scan the Wabash Township website? Nobody's, you got to broadcast this and sell it as a plan. You got to sell your projects. You're not doing that. And my last parting shot is 4 meetings and you don't have the meeting notes out. And then she says, well, I'm not going to give an update because I don't have the meeting notes for the last 4 meetings. And then you kind of say, yeah, we didn't. What are you doing?
That's my responsibility as the secretary.
Okay.
As I said, I've given access on multiple occasions. They also, my understanding, they're available on our website.
Okay. Then why did she claim she didn't have them?
Sure. I can't really speak to what she claims. What I can say is I did not get it after her most recent request.
Okay.
Until a week or so afterward. That is correct. She's not wrong on that. However, again, this has been provided previously.
All right. I'm done.
Thank you.
And just to state, right, like ideally, and this board believes that any process going forward, being the fire district, the fire territory, would be something that, there are conversations that would happen elected official to elected official, but those conversations aren't the end of the process. They're a start of a conversation. And as we make progress, we should seek public input from the individuals that would be affected, either be it by the service that would be provided, by the tax changes that would happen as a result of whatever plan we would be seeking to implement. And at the end of the day, the board does have, this board and potentially other units of government, if we were to make a partnership, they would be the final person that makes a decision, but we would need to seek public input. And I'm not a believer in going forward and doing something unilaterally without selling it to the public, explaining its benefit, and allowing people to come together and either voice their support, their concerns, and ideally, we would take their concerns and try to answer those and try to go back and see how can we better address those. That process hasn't played out, as you are all aware. Is there any other public comment either here or on the Zoom? I see Chief Ward, you are recognized.
So you guys are all clear that wasn't productive, right? That has been the last 2 years of anybody that's been in this building for any period of time. That has been our level of involvement with that office. Every bit of that. And that was mild, folks. Sure, some of you didn't catch her say they're so stupid when she didn't mute her microphone, right? Okay. That's what you're dealing with. So there's no rationalizing what is happening, guys. There's nothing to rationalize that process, but I'll tell you a couple things. First and foremost, this is a 9-page document that looks like my 13-year-old put it together. This was her justification for the emergency fire loan. Did we need it? Yes, but she tried to use this to justify her cause. So she can't sit back and say she didn't know the problem existed. She was trying to champion the cause, right? You can't champion a cause and then terminate the people that you used the money to purchase. It doesn't work that way. You can't have it both ways. You have to pick a side. Anybody like to look at this, you're welcome to. Beyond that, I also have a strong belief in just being honest and truthful, right? What's the worst that's going to happen? You heard her make the comment that at no point did she ever discuss what the plan was with the part-time employees. You guys all heard that, right? Is any of these mics on so it'll go through the speaker?
Oh, they're on, but they wouldn't go through the speaker right now. No.
I just want to make sure that we're dealing with in fact.
I mean, but if you put it close to this microphone, it would go through the speakers.
If we're dealing in fact, I want to make sure that we're all dealt the same cards, right? So
we heard you, Chief. We heard you.
Yeah, we got you. We're gonna put it here.
Doing our medical calls, we would go down to right, like we would have a part-time. This is how I would imagine something like that playing out, is that we would have a part-time person working for the township out of their home that goes and takes care of like fire alarms. We wouldn't be doing any medical calls, and so the only thing that West Lafayette would be responding to would be active fires. You know, the services in the township would be greatly reduced. Like, it's not I don't think it's a great scenario. But in an emergency, it is. So in a situation where everybody walks off the job, it is what I'm legally obligated for. There is no.
First of it's her trying to justify that feeling.
You can continue speaking if you'd like.
So the facts are, let's just get them all out on the table. She did discuss what her plan is with the part-time employees. We can deal in lies or we can deal in facts. I'm standing here unemployed because I dealt in facts with her, and I'm okay with that. But all of these people standing around here, and the two people that we hired after she realized that we were having this crisis, right, that she helped us get, that she's now trying to get rid of, we have an obligation to those folks. We absolutely do. I'm concerned. I think the $500,000 move is the only option on the table. But if anybody who sat here that knew nothing about any of this prior to today that sat and watched this, I'm concerned about her ability to do the right thing with the money once it's there. Prior to 2 weeks when these guys are told they don't have a job anymore. There's got to be something to hold her accountable to that. These guys can move money and they've done everything they can do. And I wish that you all knew what else was done behind the scenes by these folks. And Michelle, if she's still back there, it's immeasurable. But at the end of the day, there's not a choice. There's not a choice. We can give you numbers all day long of the explosive growth of this township and the need to have career firefighters in this building. But she's made a grave mistake if she gets rid of these folks. And I can't reiterate that enough. We won't know the full impact of that until a firefighter's injured or dies, or until somebody doesn't show up at your house in the time that you need them to, and your family member dies, your house burns down, you lose things. But she will still have the ability to stand over here and say, guys, I told you it wasn't my fault, and I didn't understand your question. And it's just the way life works.
You're recognized to.
May I? Okay.
You're recognized to respond to.
We have 3 instructors in this department: myself, Travis Merkel, wherever he's at, and Joe Wade. I'm gone. Joe Wade and Travis Merkel are being terminated. We don't have any certified state instructors in this agency anymore. That's a big deal. By National Fire Protection Agency code, we can't conduct any significant training without an instructor there. What do? Anybody? Because all of us have stood around trying to figure it out and we're lost. The reality is we have a commitment that we've made, not just to the people in this building, but to the people outside of it. We have 30,000 customers, and any of you that don't live in the township, you're included. So there's more than 30,000 people that visit the township, people that are here right now. We have a commitment to those folks. And anything short of continuing to keep these guys employed and doing everything we need to do is failure. It's absolute failure. I know you all know that, but at the end of the day, something has got to change for something to change. And we can harp on it, we can complain about it, we can throw all the fits we want to throw, but there is no reasoning with what was happening there at all. And I'll say it, the only hope I think we have is the judicial system playing itself out, and let's see what happens. And I hate that. In spite of my feelings for that woman, I hate that. The reality is we should all be committed to doing the right thing every single time, and we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. There'd be 4 people here in this meeting right now if we were all doing the right thing every time.
Yeah, it'd be really boring.
That's exactly right. I hope that we're able to get ahead of this as quickly as we can. I hope that she's able to see what you guys have done and the possibility buried therein. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that she's going to fight it and she'll drag it out as long as she possibly can just to prove a point.
I'll respond to that. If a person were to be convicted, they would be removed from office, yeah. Sorry?
Thank you, Chief.
This obviously isn't the first time nor the last time that I'll say it, but I'll go outside of regular order to thank Chief Ward for his service and for his commitment to our township and for all the work he's done before he became chief, when he was chief, and even now that he's no longer employed with us.
Any further public comment?
Yeah. I'll add a comment before we, I see that Mr. Spiker, I believe, was raising his hand.
Mike Dwyer.
Oh, Mike Dwyer. And all right. I did want to add something before we jump on to Mr. Spiker and then Roth and then Mike Dwyer. Leadership of other departments are also worried about what it would mean for us not to have fire safety and like have emergency responders available. Just in speaking today with another trustee of a township that would come and run with us depending on the section of the fire is at, he's worried because, this affects him. That means he has to come and respond. That means he has less resources available to cover his area. It means that he's stretched thinner. And every time a department is stretched thinner, it means that the lives of the people in the department are at higher risk. It means that the lives of the people that would need the response from the fire department would also be at risk. For such reason, it is important for not just for our township and the unincorporated area. It also means West Lafayette would have to cover runs that they wouldn't normally need to. It means that they would be stretched thinner with the same amount of resources. That's part of the reason why they're going to bill us $915 an hour if we don't get our act together and keep these guys on staff. Because if they have to respond to calls that are outside of their time, it's affecting their resources. And similarly, I would expect that it would drain the resources of surrounding departments, including Purdue Fire, Tippecanoe Township, and other townships that would also respond in cases of major fires, like has happened, unfortunately, over time. I mean, that's what they're here for, to respond to those situations. I will recognize Mr. Spiker, Andrew Spiker. Did I get that right? Yeah. All right, he's recognized, and we'll get him here on the speakerphone in a second.
Man, after Ed's speech, I don't know how I can talk after this. That was too good. So I guess a little background on myself. I kind of left the department about, a month ago. I was a station resident here for 2 years. If you don't know what a station resident is, I just lived upstairs, rent-free. But I took calls while working a full-time job. I did it. It was, I'm not asking, you know, oh, that's impressive or anything like that. It's not that bad when you get the hang of it. As I was here during the whole COVID, I didn't see my fiance for 6 months. She was currently at law school in Bloomington. And so we feel like it wasn't a good idea for me to travel back and forth. In that time, I was exposed to COVID potentially 5 times. I'm sure Ed and all the officers got to enjoy those text messages of, hey, I don't feel really well right now, as I've interacted with the entire department. In that entire time, I saw Jennifer Tyson 0 times here. It's kind of frustrating. I have a boss at Purdue. I work for PRF. And he always told me, you know, if you're going to be a leader, you lead from the front, not from behind. Now, I can understand if Jennifer has a health condition or such, but she never reached out to any of us. She may have reached out to Ed. I don't think she probably did, but she never reached out, asked what we needed. It was the community members that did. Community members brought masks here. Community members brought food here. Thank you very much. They were delicious. They helped and they supported us. But I kind of just want to share some facts after that audio that Ed played of her not wanting to do medical services. Tees is currently, unless it's changed, they're stationed on the other side of the river. That's neither here nor there. The reason why it's important is if we're not providing medical service, if you're over in Capilano, you get stung by a bee and you have anaphylactic shock and there's no one there to respond, you know what happens? You're dead. I remember about 2 years ago, Tesla, if you guys remember that fire, 4 houses on fire. There were more houses on fire than firefighters in the truck that first responded. 7? I'm sorry, it was just a lot. It was ridiculous. There were more houses on fire than firefighters there on scene. You can't put them out. So that was with people on station. Now imagine Tesla. Go drive over there and see how close to the house. Go see how close those houses are together. It's built all the way around here. So now Jennifer is expecting people of the community that she wants to hire at $15 an hour, which I find funny as a Democrat because $15 an hour is what the Democrats want to be minimum wage. You can go down to Family Express right here and make more than that an hour. So if you want to do that, I'd recommend go there. She's expecting these people to show up and say, yep, there's a fire. And I'm not 100% sure on what NFPA says, how long it takes for a house to become fully engulfed, but I think it's a modern structure is about 5 minutes from ignition to full engulfed. What is it? 5 to 7 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes, there goes everything you own. May not be a big issue unless you had a loved one that died and those were all their photos you had. Or, you know, your grandparents' relics. I know some of that stuff can't be replaced and some of it can be. But to me, if I were to lose that type of stuff, I'd be devastated. Currently, as the township sits, I'm thankful that my parents and my loved ones do not live in this township because I would be fearful right now for their lives. But saying that, it doesn't matter to Jennifer. You know why it doesn't matter to Jennifer? Because the place she claims to live, guess who covers it? West Lafayette Fire, West Lafayette Police. Someone will respond to her medical calls, but someone may not respond to yours. And sadly, I feel like that's what's going to happen. Someone will die, houses will catch fire, people will die. And with that being said, I don't know how to make this less grim. Talk to a lawyer, because I don't think Jennifer realizes she can also be sued, not just the township. Now she thinks just because, oh, the law says I have to just provide fire. You know what the law is going to do? They're going to look at the other townships and see what they provide. They're going to look at Indiana and see what they provide, and they're going to make an educated decision on that. So my suggestion is if anything like that happens, talk to an attorney. I'm not one, so speak to them and get what's right. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry for making it grim, but those are the facts.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Yeah, I would echo those comments and basically say, obviously, as a result of just normal operations, at times we do lose houses, at times we do lose folks. Problem is that, you know, we are paying a lot of money to make sure that we have the best response possible. And I don't want us to be in a situation where we have money sitting in the fire fund, not being spent, while houses go up in flames, while people are at risk of medical emergencies, and they're in increased risk of death. And not just them, as I've stated in passing to Board Member Tate, you know, it also means whoever is responding without proper equipment would also be endangering their lives as well. Because if you don't respond with proper equipment, chances are that you're likelier to perish in a fire or sustain a significant injury because you don't have the adequate resources. I mean, it doesn't, I'm no expert in fire protection, but it doesn't take an expert to understand that. Ms. Roth, you're recognized. Oh, all right. Is there any other further comment before I allow Association President Dwyer to speak? Ms. Dwyer, you're recognized. Mr. Dwyer, sorry.
A couple days ago.
There, sorry.
My apologies. Let me get up here. A couple days, well, yesterday we submitted a public notice letter, et cetera, for public release regarding Trustee Tysing's decision to terminate the 3 firefighters. So to ensure that you guys get them, I'm sure you've seen them, but I am providing physical copies to you. I also have a physical copy here for Jennifer, if she was here. She's not here, and did she drop off the call?
I believe so.
Okay. So I intend to leave this in the mailbox she's got here unless someone wants to let me into her office. I don't know if anyone has a key to her office for me to put this on her desk, but this will be given to her in a way that she has requested, either through the mailbox here or otherwise. So real quick, I just want to say who I am, say what I do here, and I'm going to read this letter for public, just for public record. So anyway, as Bren, I got you.
You're all good.
As board president Ahel said, my name is Mike Dwyer. I'm the president of the Wabash Township Firefighters Association. I'm not the fire chief of the department. I'm not an officer of the department. I am one of the line firefighters here that is the president of the association. And typically what that means in a typical year, I have 2 or 3 functions, and one of them is to help spend the money that is donated to the association to buy gear, to buy radios, to buy pagers, etc. The other main job I have is to run our business meetings. One of the things that was never advertised to me or to anyone, and anyone that has been a past association president can attest to this, is going and giving interviews to the newspaper, to television. It's just not what typically you would expect. However, as we all have to do, we rise to do what we need to do in order to help the situation as best we can. So I've been a firefighter here since 2009. I've been a certified firefighter since 2000. So I've been around here for a number of years. So I'm going to go ahead and read this letter, and I have a couple of after comments. So I apologize, this letter is a little bit lengthy. On Monday, December 21st, the Wabash Township Advisory Board reached out to Trustee Tysing to ask her to resign her position as the Wabash Township Trustee. Since that day, she has been asked to resign by the Wabash Township Firefighters Association on February 17th, 2021, and the Tippecanoe County Democratic Chairwoman, Jackie Shosnick, thank you. And that was on May 13th, 2021, as well as numerous residents of the township, including, I'm guessing, a number of people in this room and on the Zoom call and on YouTube. As of yet, she has refused to resign, stating that she believes everything she is doing is legal and in the best interest of Wabash Township and the Wabash Township Fire Department. Today, and this was yesterday, so today, as of June 14, 2021, Trustee Tysing sent an email to Assistant Chief of Training Joe Wade, firefighter Travis Merkel, and firefighter Drew Hampton, informing them of that their last day of employment will be June 29th, 2021, with health insurance benefits ending on June 30th. She has stated repeatedly that the reason for dismissing the paid firefighters from the department is due to budget constraints. Most recently, that was said on June 7th, 2021. Now, she actually said that again today, so she made this statement slightly inaccurate, but so due to budget constraints available to pay them and a lack of agreement with the Wabash Township Board to use funds from the emergency loan obtained in 2021 to continue their pay and benefits. This statement from Trustee Tysing stating that there is no money and the Wabash Township Board isn't wanting to spend emergency loan money is directly contradictory to emails with fund information provided by the Wabash Township Board and statements made by the board in email and in several Wabash Township Board meetings in which board members reiterated that they wanted to use the money obtained I apologize, reiterated that they wanted to use the money obtained as part of the 2020 emergency loan to fund salary and benefits for the existing firefighters. This was reiterated at the March board meeting in direct response to a question submitted by Association President Michael Dwyer, and in the May board meeting, in which the board also expressed a willingness to apply for an additional emergency loan for 2021 to fund the pay and benefits of the firefighters until the end of 2022. This would allow Trustee Tysing, the Wabash Township Board, and the Wabash Township Firefighters Association to work together to find a permanent funding solution that will enable the employment of the 3 existing paid firefighters and potentially hiring additional firefighters on the long term. On May 5th, Trustee Tysing held a meeting with members of the WTFD in an attempt to resolve some of the issues that are occurring. She requested that we present her a contract that would allow the Firefighters Association to take over management of fire department operations. So we started working on that contract by requesting and reviewing other contracts for service between various fire agencies and townships. We acknowledged that any contract we submitted to her would take time to write up, and once we had a proposed contract, she would need to review, and we could begin the negotiation on the final wording of the contract and the figures to be included in the contract, such as the dates and the specific amount of money. Wabash Township Association President Michael Dwyer submitted a proposed contract to Trustee Tysing on June 8th, 2021, asking her to review and submit any comments or concerns she had by 5 p.m. on June 10th. Dwyer followed up on June 11th after receiving no response. On June 14th, she stated that she hadn't looked at the proposed contract and planned to do so in this week. However, she stated that would miss the deadline to be included on June's board meeting agenda, and we will have not had a finalized contract approved until the July board meeting. Obviously, this is unacceptable. She had more than enough time to review and provide comments. Her willful refusal to work with us and continue down the path of terminating the employment of the 3 firefighters with families is disgusting and shameful. Over the past 6 months, she has done everything she can to demoralize the firefighters, attempt to harm the fire and EMS protection of the township, and ruin the relationships we have with our neighboring departments. She has directly lied to Mayor Dennis in her assertion that Wabash firefighters have threatened to quit over her indictment on 20 charges of felony theft. This is untrue. We had a regularly scheduled EMS training meeting that night that she was charged, and no one expressed a desire to leave as a result of the charges being filed. The emails published between her and Mayor Dennis were disrespectful to Mayor Dennis and embarrassing to the residents of the township that are represented by her. They are particularly embarrassing to Wabash Township Fire Department, since she tried to put us at the center of her problems. While working with the Firefighters Association in good faith on securing a contract, she was also attempting to secure an agreement with the city of West Lafayette to respond to calls within Wabash Township Fire Department's response area. She has informed one of the paid firefighters that she plans to replace them with part-time paid help. This is the audio that Chief Ward shared earlier. We are not 100% clear if these are firefighters or non-firefighters, which she did clarify that she intends them to be firefighters. So we're not clear if these are firefighters or non-firefighters she plans to hire, but much like the open fire chief position, we have a hard time seeing how she plans to fill these slots. She has informed numerous people that she plans to stop and eventually stop EMS calls, since she states that she is only required by law to provide fire protection, and EMS responses aren't required as part of fire protection. For reference, since we've sent Trustee Tysing the proposed contract, Wabash Township Fire Department responded to 34 total calls of service, 27 of which were EMS calls that we would have been not allowed to respond on. So that's in 1 week. In summary, she provided last day notices to the department's career staff stating that there is not enough money to continue their employment. This is a lie. She stated that the volunteer firefighters threatened to quit because of her indictment. This is also a lie. Her conduct is unbecoming of her position, and she needs to resign immediately. And then I have an encouragement for people to attend this meeting. So the statement we made in March was probably not as harsh as that. We had some discussion about the wording in it, and whether or not we were going too negative or too against her on this. But at this point, we don't know really what else to do beyond what we're talking about tonight. So if she was here, I'd ask her of this, but she's not here. So I'll just reiterate this plea to her. And this is a plea from me. I think I'm speaking for the members of the association when I ask this question is, Trustee Tyson, please, please, please do not terminate these 3 paid guys. They have families, they have lives, and you're trying to ruin them. We have people in this township they serve. There is obviously a disagreement here between the association, or rather the fire department, the association, the board. Don't put them at the middle of it. These aren't games. Everyone has stated this, and Chief Ward stated it probably better than I ever could. But we're asking you, please do not go through with your plan. For the benefit of everyone and for the safety of our township, please do not do this.
Ms. Sherry Hertz, you're recognized.
Yeah.
You're recognized.
You corresponded with Trustee Tyson in the last couple of days via email.
Yes.
About the contract. Did she or did she not state in her last email to you that she would no longer respond to your email?
So just so that the people on Zoom and YouTube can hear this, Sherry asked if I had been corresponding with Trustee Tyson regarding the contract, and if she did not tell me that she would no longer respond to my emails. Is that the gist of your question?
Yeah.
So I will read what she told me. So this was what she sent to me after she sent an email stating that she hadn't a chance to look at the contract. I told her that I thought that was unacceptable. And I asked her to agree to hold off on terminating the employment and the benefits of the 3 paid firefighters until we've had a chance to work out the details in terms of the contract. I thought that was a fair question. I don't see there's any reason to terminate them in 2 weeks when we are currently discussing potentially having a contract that might work this out, or that the board is working on other situations that might be able to ensure that there's no reason to lay them off. So in response to my question, she said this exactly. I saw your email today. I'll take a look at it and move forward. You had months to get this to me. Please don't try and play games with me, Mike. You've refused to meet with me and now you're outraged. You were supposed to get this to me before the May meeting. It isn't on the agenda, which is required for the open door policy. If you are concerned about the timing, you have done a terrible time communicating. I'll proceed as outlined in my previous email. If you have an issue with that, then I suggest you schedule a meeting with me and we can discuss it. I won't respond to any more of your emails. So that's verbatim what she told me. I didn't really honestly know how to respond to this. I did respond to her. She didn't respond back to me, which I didn't expect her to. And frankly, I'm kind of disappointed that she called off this meeting. I'll put that nicely as I can. She quit this meeting. I'm hoping that she goes back and watches the recorded video later. I'm hopeful she does that so she can hear the next couple of people that spoke.
I'm sure she'll go the minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. This is an emotional plea from me for those 3 paid guys. Yes.
Yeah, I intended to ask of it, and I'm fairly certain that Brendan was already planning on doing so. So
what was?
Just said the text of the email.
Oh yeah, I'll forward that to you. I'll actually forward you the one that I responded to.
All right, it has all of it. So, all right. I do appreciate Association President Dwyer for his comment and reading. I'll take is there anybody else that has a public comment at this time?
I actually think we have a lot more business still to cover. So
Yeah.
either we need to table that business, proceed to it, or.
Okay, perfect. Seeing, and I don't think that there were any raised hands anyway. So seeing no raised hands for public comments, we'll move on. We've already tabled, have we tabled all business or not yet?
No, we
Proceeding?
discussed it. I will move now to table agenda item number 6, old business, which
Yeah.
is hold over item from our previous meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Moving on to new business, we've already done item A. Moving to item B, which would be budget considerations regarding cemeteries. Is this something that you wanted to speak to, Member David Tate?
If I may, sorry, there was a part of A that we hadn't discussed. So if it's okay, would we be able to go there real quick? I just wanted to give all right. So I just wanted to be able to provide on the record a balance sheet as of May 18th for the different funds. The trustee hasn't really provided information, but I know that Member Betts was able to, Secretary Betts was able to acquire it from the office staffer, as I understand it. So in the rainy day fund as of May 18th, we had $32,268. The general fund, we had $117,394. There's a minor excess levy fund. That one has been sitting around $4,000 since end of year. Township assistance has $15,288 remaining. This is left over from last year. We haven't received the appropriations for this year yet. The emergency medical fire had $321,000 remaining. The firefighting fund is in the negative at the moment for $31,696. But again, this will be replenished as we receive money in June. And then fire equipment debt, we had $17,681. Cumulative fire, we had just under $600,000. And payroll reductions, we've had about 1,500 since. Just in general, we're in good financial shape other than the firefighting fund to get through the end of following year. So the only area where we're really trying to seek a big change in the near future is firefighting at the moment. There's other areas that we'd like to touch on, and we'll get to those in future meetings. I'm sure that people here are tired.
Can I please have order, folks? We're trying to conclude our meeting.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Yeah. So we'll go through and we'll make sure that we'll keep paying attention to that, and we'll keep communicating with you. If you have questions on those areas, we'd love to hear it. Obviously, we won't be able to cover it as in depth as we would have liked in the original meeting minutes and agenda because we have more pressing issues to discuss tonight. So yeah, I think that would be it. Would we want to move forward to new business, budget considerations regarding cemetery?
Now for the most important part of the evening. I'm going to make this real quick. There are 4 cemeteries we're obligated to maintain. And in the past year, we've had a little difficulty with people looking at Sandridge. If you've not been at Sandridge, it's right across from Fort Weotnon. I was not aware that that was a land trust area helping niches and the township maintain that. There has been some concern about its overgrowth and the fact that there are numerous endangered species there that if not maintained and propagated will never come back. So the board, along with the trustee, has worked with niches to maintain that. And along with Trustee Tissing has agreed to buy a weed eater. So on my off time, I'm retired. I'm going to go down and weed around the grave sites. We had Gus Nyberg from Niches gave a tour this last Saturday. About 12, 14 people showed up looking exactly at what those endangered species are, the plants and so on. Would you believe cacti, unbelievable plants down there. We're going to have another tour. We're really doing our best to maintain the other cemeteries. If you've seen the cemetery on the corner of 52 and Taft Klondike Road, that's Burn Cemetery. Look how well maintained that is. So we're really trying to keep the budget really tight. We're trying to do the best we can. Some of this is volunteer.
I spent 6 hours down there one Monday weed eating, and I had a guy come up and live next door, said, I'll come up and help you weed eat because I think it's important. So we're trying to do our job. If you see something that you think we need to do as related to the cemeteries, please let us know. We're keeping the budget really tight, but we're going to work with niches to maintain those special endangered species. And I'll tell you that at the corner out here at the cemetery, did you know there's a Revolutionary War cemetery grave? So we're really doing our part to maintain what the trustee and the board is obligated to do by law. And we're going to do that. If you have any concerns about that, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And before we close out this X section, there would have been 3 questions particularly, well, 2 questions that we would have asked the trustee. Obviously, she's no longer here in the meeting. One of them was just to try and figure out what the frequency of mowing is, mowing contract information, just because we're entering budget season. As you can imagine, we'd rather not have to be yelling over other people on a regular basis. We'd rather be talking simple issues, ideally with a big crowd that's very interested, but not in despair. And then the last bit would be necessary upgrades and maintenance. It's an ongoing conversation and part of what we hope to discuss as we approach this budget season. So, you know, the big issue of local township government, cemeteries. Yeah, they were member taped.
So if you've not been to Sand Ridge, I would urge you to go. There are some areas there that actually need some tree removal. We cannot do that. We urge the trustee to make that contract, to hire these people to do that, because we've gotten some concerns about if the tree falls, damages a monument. And some of those monuments we cannot replace. So we're asking the trustee to help us find contracts for that and get some tree removal in there while we can, because we obviously want to maintain respect for those graves that are there.
Yeah. And then last but not least, part of what the conversation would need to be over coming years, and I think, you know, we would be well served to have help from the trustee's office on this, would be also seeking out, for example, grants and other sort of stuff as we continue to upgrade our cemeteries. I mean, this is pretty basic stuff, but important stuff that matters to the families of loved ones that, you know, are buried at our different locations, and we would love to be able to preserve it. There's a lot of history there from local important individuals and just everyday folks, and it's important. And, you know, as we continue to memorialize them and take care of their grave sites and make sure that the monuments are well kept, that they're legible, that sort of stuff, we have opportunities of growth in the future. And I would hope that we'd be able to work with the trustee's office to do some of that. I'll move to skip agenda item 7C since it was covered. I know that Mr. Tate wanted to mention that that was happening. That's why I included it. But I believe that Patricia Mason covered it earlier. I would also say, you know, obviously all that input would be beneficial for the board to have. And ideally, once we're past the crisis segment of the current situation, the board, in addition with consultation and during regular meetings, would be able to start to look at those and have input from a trustee that cares about those things. I mean, sincerely, like, you have no idea. When I came into, like, just to like ramble for half a second, when I started as board president, I stated, you know, I want to be able to have these meetings on this certain subjects. And every time we have a meeting, another fire goes up when it comes to township fire department stuff. So I hope that we can get there. That's a comment. So move to skip that.
Yes, I will second that motion. Do we have 3 ayes?
Aye.
Perfect.
All right.
On to number 8.
All right, discussion and presentation of budget timeline. So let me pull up the calendar here, and I'll make sure to share that. I have it written down, and I don't have it in front of me right now. Do I have a notebook under there? No. Sorry. It's been, it was, setup was a little bit strange, so I do apologize. So the trustee wanted to present sorry, let me pull up. All right, so the trustee wanted to present her initial budget proposal on July 20th. Our intention was to then, we said about 2 weeks time. So, and we'll specify that. So around July 3rd, sorry, 1 week. So, August 3rd to 2 weeks, we would be talking and basically offering
what the township board would like to see, what changes, et cetera, important communications. And then from there, we'd basically be meeting every 2 weeks to try to cover the different areas, cover specifics of firefighting fund, also get into the nitty gritty of what township assistance looks like. I know that board member Betts has been speaking for quite a while about an insulin pantry, and we'd like to talk a little bit more about that, as well as also going in and talking about cemeteries and continuing the discussion. I'd love your participation on it. Obviously, as you saw, it's important because we have $500,000 that we just moved, and we're gonna have to appropriate it for next year. And we're gonna make sure that we continue doing work there, and we'd like to hear your thoughts and comments. And we promise that even if we don't agree, we'll listen and try to answer your concerns as best as possible, because that's what a township board should do. Anyway, that's rough timeline. I'll include it specifically in the minutes once that's finalized. So I'll give you the specific dates, and we'll be publishing those on our website as well. Moving on to the last agenda item, future meeting dates for 2021. As we discussed, we'll have a planned meeting, an emergency meeting next week. We'll be covering basically listening for what the trustees' plan is going forward, the money that we just moved. And we'll speak about anything else that needs to be done depending on her decision. And lastly, we'll have, as I said, the July 20th meeting would be the next regularly scheduled meeting, and it would be the introduction of the budget. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
And I was second David's motion.
All in favor of moving to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time. Yeah. You want to end the meeting there?
Thank you, everybody who joined us.